Winnemucca to the Winnemucca InnSiders Sports Show Challenge. And this is week number 10. And I have to tell you, folks, I was pathetic last week. I got a 3, and I barely got a 3.
Yeah, you haven't beat my record. I got a 2. I got a 2 and a 3 in consecutive weeks. So we both had our challenges here.
Yeah, so I have been horrible. So in segment number 1 here, folks, we're going to go over the first 3 college games, and Terry's going to give us a recap of how we did last week.
Quick recap. Okay, so on the last week, I got a 6, Dave got a 6, Gary, you got a 3. So I made a little bit of ground on you, but no ground on Dave. Some tough games last week. Alabama, some of the things that I thought were going to go through. Put my best bet on the Seahawks, and that was a heart bet. It didn't work out that way. Other best bets, Gary took Penn State. That was a loser.
Yeah, no kidding.
And Dave, I got to find your star. What did you take as the best
He
bet?
took Michigan.
Michigan State.
Okay, so you got a winner. So Dave's doing pretty good on the best bets. Probably 8 out of 10 or so. You're pretty good.
Yeah, this year I'm doing good.
Better than me.
Moving on to this week's challenge. The 3 good college games here, they're tough for me to pick. We've got Ohio State going to Michigan State. Ohio State's 8-1, Michigan State's 6-3. Michigan State's at home, and they're getting 3.5. That doesn't seem like a lot, having an 8-1 go to a 6-3. But if you look at it, Michigan State lost early to Arizona State, and then they lost to Northwestern, and they lost to Michigan. And Michigan's probably the best in that Big Ten.
Well, wait a minute. They're not the best in the Big Ten.
I'd say they are the best in the Big Ten.
I'd say they are the best in the Big Ten.
Oh, brother. We're going to
we'll see moving forward, but it's a 3.5 point favorite. I think the points should be bigger, being that Ohio State is 3-5, although they did get, my notes say, blown by Purdue. I would say blown by Purdue.
Yeah, and I say you're correct. They did get blown. I know it.
So I'm going to take Michigan State with the 3.5 and think that they may pull a home upset here, or at least stay close in this game.
All right.
I already know who Gary's taking.
Well,
Dave, who do you like?
Yeah, might as well skip
No. You're not going to skip me. You guys are not getting off the hook that easy. I'm taking the Buckeyes, but I don't have a big feel for it because Urban Meyer is letting me down. He needs to put in Tate Martell, the former Bishop Gorman quarterback, because he's more mobile than Haskins, who he gets a lot of yards, but you know what? He only throws it 3 yards down the field, and the guy runs for 25 yards. So they better straighten it out in a hurry, and they better get that defense straightened out. But I am going to take Ohio State.
No surprise there.
All right, Ohio State's been coming off some tough games here. Had to struggle against the pathetic Nebraska team last week, which is almost embarrassing again for you, Gary.
Oh!
But I don't see it happening again. How they're even favored over Michigan State, I don't know. Therefore, I'm going to take Ohio State. Not only that, they have that big game coming up against Michigan to end the season.
Okay, so Dave and Gary on Ohio State. The next game, my Washington State Cougars 8-1 going to Colorado. Colorado's 5-4 overall, 2-4 in conference. They've lost their last 4 games straight. They had a 5-0 start to the season. Kind of had a disappointing 4-game streak here. In conference, they haven't been very strong. Games like this always scare me. We're a 5.5 point favorite on the road. Of course, I'm going to take Washington State. 8-0. I think they'll go 9-1 in this game. They've got Arizona the week after that, and then the big game with the Huskies in the Apple Cup to finish the season. But I think the Cougars are looking good in the Pac-12 right now.
Well, I tell you what, I love Mike Leach's Washington State Cougars a lot. I never screw up. I always mess up that quarterback's name, Minshaw?
Gardner Minshew.
Gardner Minshew. Okay, just because I like the name, I got to go with Washington State. And besides that, folks, I truly believe if they win out, and you all know I'm not a Pac-12 guy at all, but they should be in the playoffs if they win out, period.
That is a big if, though. To win out, we still have to beat the Huskies.
Oh, you could beat the Huskies.
It's been a tough, deal. It's in Pullman this year.
Okay, well, then you're going to beat them. All right.
All right, I'll tell you what. Normally I'd go with that 5.5 and take it as a dog, but I'm not going to do it here. That 5.5 turned into a favorites number this year. I'm taking Washington State just by the number. But I'll tell you what, Washington State is good against the spread till last week, unfortunately. But Terry called it, though.
Yeah, I told you being favored by more than a touchdown was a little too much.
But I think
for
they're two teams heading different directions here. I'm going Washington State.
Colorado, again, losing 4 in a row, and one of those games was at home to Oregon State, so I'm using that as if Oregon State can beat them by 20, Washington State should beat them by 20. So
yeah, I agree.
So the last game on the college scoreboard is Wisconsin at Penn State. Both teams are 6-3. Penn State is ranked 20th in the country. the records in conference, Wisconsin's actually 4-2, Penn State's 3-3. I don't understand the 8.5. That seems too much to me. I haven't watched much of this. I'm going to let Dave go first because I haven't watched
I'll
these
tell you
guys
what,
play.
it seems too much because they're gonna blast Wisconsin. Wisconsin struggled with Rutgers. They're not that good this year. Penn State's been in the games. You're right, Terry. That's a lot of points, but still, I'm going to take Penn State here. I come in here thinking I was going to go against all three of our favorite teams, and I'm going with them, but that is too many. I'm going to take Penn State because they want you to take the 8.5 points. I've been doing good in college.
All right, since Dave did blast my Ohio State Buckeyes on their very first college game, but he did take them. I'm sorry, Dave. I cannot take your Penn State Nittany Lions, and here's why. Your quarterback has been getting beat up
He is
the
beat up
last
for this
2 or
game,
3 weeks. They forgot to block for this poor kid. McSorley is a winner, hands down, but they're going to go up against the best rushing team in the Big Ten, the Wisconsin Badgers. Therefore, I'm going to take the Badgers on the ground. I'm counting for bad weather. Don't know if I'm going to get it.
Again, just statistically, it looks like Penn State, this should be a 4 or 5 point favorite, not an 8.5. I'm taking the points and taking Wisconsin as well.
Oh,
not
you are?
strong on it, but I'll take Wisconsin.
All right, good. All right, folks, that's going to end segment number 1 here. And when we come back, segment number 2, we're going to cover the first 4 pro games on the inside. Let me get that out on the Insider Sports Contest. Gee whiz! All right, folks, welcome back to segment number 2 here, and we're going to talk on the first 4 games. And Terry, lead it off here.
So we got the Lions at the Bears. Lions 3-5 on the season. Bears 5-3. Bears are a 6.5 point favorite. The line seems right where it should be. I think the team's going in different directions here. I think the Bears are actually playing a lot better. I like the Bears at home. I'm not crazy about the 6.5, but I'm glad it's not 7.5.
Well, Rich Gannon, the former Super Bowl champion, he was a champion, wasn't he, when he played for the Raiders? Did he win that year?
I think he got there. He didn't win.
Oh, okay. But he's a Super Bowl quarterback. Let's put it that way. He said that Matthew Stafford was the most overrated, overpaid quarterback in the league. And I have to agree with him right now,
I said
unfortunately.
that 5 years ago.
So I'm going to go for the Chicago Bears.
Dave, it's up to you.
I'll tell you what, just out of general sheer principle, I got to go Bears here. Lions cost me 2 weeks in a row, 3-team parlays. No more Lions for me. Even if I lose, I'll take the Bears.
Now, I might take the Lions on Thanksgiving, possibly.
Okay, that is the second game, by the way, that we all 3 agreed on.
Geez, how did we do last week on that?
When we were in agreement, we were never in agreement, so I guess that's good.
We weren't?
We didn't have a single. Oh no, we all took the Saints, and that was actually a winner. So
Yeah.
Saints over the Rams was unanimous, and we actually had that one right.
Okay, well, so that's inched us up to almost 500, maybe?
Maybe at best. We got 2 games that were already in agreement, Washington State, and we're all taking the Bears.
Okay.
Next game, we got the Saints at the Bengals. Saints, now 7-1 after that big win, knocking off the undefeated Rams. A game that I just went over. We all picked that last week. Going to the Bungles, 5-3,
that hurts.
4.5 point spread. This is a coin toss for me. I'll let you go, since I know you're going to take the Bengals.
I am going to take the Cincinnati Bengals, and here's why, folks. The New Orleans Saints is coming off.
Always does.
Because, yeah, because I always do. No, because the Saints are coming off an emotional victory over the Rams. They put everything into that. This game they don't really care too much about, I don't think.
I think the Saints had their bye, so they had a lot of time to prepare for the Rams.
Bengals had their bye.
They both had the bye so
So
far.
Bengals had their bye last week. So we were off last week. So I think we're prepared for this one. I like the Bengals this week.
Okay, that's not a bad reason. Dave?
I'm going with the Saints. They're the best team in the league.
Can't argue with that.
They lost their first game and have looked good since then. A couple of big games against, obviously, the Rams. They beat the Packers, although the Packers are not quite the Packers of old. But I'm going to take the Saints as well. 4.5 doesn't seem like a big stretch for the Saints. I think they win that game on the road. Next game, 5-3 Redskins at the 3-5 Buccaneers. Buccaneers are a 2.5 point favorite. I almost don't understand that.
Well, I can tell you why. Because the Redskins lost 3 starters in that game
last
week in the game early. And that's why they lost that game. The Redskins have let me down the last 2 weeks in terms of pulling them through. The Buccaneers, hey, the bearded one played really, really well. Their defense couldn't stop anybody. They were terrible, but it wasn't his fault. But the Redskins they're too injured. They're too banged up right now. For that reason, I'm going to take the Buccaneers at home.
Okay, Dave, do you have a pick
Yeah, I'll
here?
tell you what, it's hard to go with the Buccaneers, but I'm gonna, because they're at home. Gary said they lost 2 linemen, 2 offensive linemen. They're in trouble. Here's where they hit the brakes. Here's where they hit the skids. I'm taking Tampa.
Yeah, I thought Redskins were looking good.
They were.
They were looking good, and the Falcons kind of gave them ran them over last week. I think they bounced back, and plus 2.5, the 5-3 team over the 3-5. I'm taking the Redskins.
You better hope they get some offensive linemen somewhere.
They'll dig up a couple this week.
Yeah, they'll be calling me and Dave.
Well, they're not quite that desperate. Okay, so one more game in this segment. We got the Chargers going to the Raiders. Boy, the Raiders are pathetic. Chargers are favored by 9.5 on the road. Chargers just came off a big win at Seattle over my Seahawks. They've won. They're 6-2 on the season. I think they've won 6 in a row.
They have.
So they lost their first 2, and now they're 6-0. I don't like the 9.5, but I'm going to take them because I cannot take the Raiders. I think the Raiders are intentionally trying to lose out. I think they want the first-round draft pick next year.
Well, I'm 0 for the season with the Raiders right now, folks.
No matter which way you go.
No matter which way I go. And I know my buddy Davey hates John Gruden. I actually like John Gruden, but gosh, it's painful to watch the Raiders. But 9.5, too many. Okay. So I'm going to take the Raiders.
I'm taking the Chargers. Raiders are the worst team in the history of the league, and so is John Gruden.
The history of the league. He said the Browns
I
were the
love
worst
this.
team in the history of the league.
And I
That's why they
love
got rid
every
of
minute
Hugh
of it.
Jackson.
Well, they did go 2 seasons without a win. I mean, the Raiders do have 1 win, but that was earlier in the season. And I'm honest. I think John Gruden is eyeing that first-round draft pick.
Well, he's got a whole
bunch
of first-round draft
He's
because
got
that's
a
what he's
bunch
been
of them.
trading away all his good players
Yep.
for, is to load up his
He's-
team for next year. He's
Yep.
building for the future. And
Yeah, there's no doubt. But I think they'll still get a win or at least a cover here.
Okay, possibly a cover, not a win. Okay.
Yeah, not a win probably. You're probably right. But possibly a cover. And I'm banking on that because I got to make up some ground somehow. All right, folks, that's going to do it for segment number 2. When we come back, we're going to cover the last 3 games. And then Dave, Terry, myself, we will give you our best picks of the day.
Which haven't been worth that much.
Okay,
Oh,
folks.
pay attention, Dave.
Okay, folks, welcome back to segment number 3. And, well, Terry, this is your game, buddy.
Well, so the Seahawks kind of let me down last week. I wasn't expecting the Chargers to be so sharp, and the Seahawks just didn't get it going soon enough. They played that game to the end. They had a chance right there at the end to kind of come back and tie that game up, but they just let it go. They let it get away before they kind of got to where they could score. So I don't know what went wrong there. We did play the Rams 3 weeks ago. We had them beat in Seattle until the last 2 minutes. I think we play them tough again. I don't think we win this game, but I'm going to take the 10.5 on the road, and the Seahawks cover by at least the hook, maybe 3. We lose by 3-7, maybe even 10, but not 10.5.
All right, this is going to pain me, Dave. I got to agree with Terry. Doggone it. Because I actually think that the Seahawks have played well enough to win of the last few weeks, and they've let it get away from them at the end. I don't know if they win the game, but I agree with Terry 100%. They will cover the spread. So I'm taking the Seattle Seahawks in this one.
Oh, boy, this is a tough one. Rams coming off a big loss. Seattle coming off a big loss. I got to go Rams here. They're too much.
Okay.
Okay, in the next game, we've got the Cardinals, probably the second worst team in the league, playing the Chiefs at Kansas City, 17.5.
Oh,
How often do you see a pro line at 17.5?
This game's giving me headaches already.
Last week we had the Bears at the Bills, and the Bears were on the road laying 10.5. And I said, no way, it's too many.
And they covered.
They covered by a mile. They could have covered 30.
Our old theories are out the window. That 10 points at home thing, I don't know who brought that. That's
well,
terrible.
that was statistically going
Right.
over like a 30-year time
Hey,
frame.
I
That
think
was
we
the
can blame
statistic.
everything that we come up with on Rod.
Yeah. And
So Rod
statistics-
Williams stole, it's your fault.
Statistics, when we're looking at a 50-50 proposition, if it's overweight on one side, it always comes back. Just like the over-unders for this season, the first 8 weeks of the season, almost every night game, Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night went over. Now all of a sudden they're all rolling under. Anyways, so Cardinals versus Chiefs. I hate the 17.5, but I'll take the Chiefs. I mean, the Cardinals don't seem to have anything going right now.
I agree. They have absolutely nothing going. But 17.5 points for an NFL team is just too many for me. I know this is a reach, but I'm going to take the Cardinals to at least cover.
You know, the Chiefs won big against the Browns last week. I forget what the final was, but they were 8.5 going in, and they won that pretty easily. I think.
Yeah, but this is 17.5.
But I think if it had been 17.5 against the Browns, they won that by a pretty. I didn't write the scores down, but I think they would have covered.
They might have won by 17. I don't
Anyways.
remember. They won, but
So you're on the Cardinals.
I'm on
with
the Cardinals.
points. And Dave.
boy, this is a hard one. I'll tell you what, I'm taking the Chiefs. It's, okay, sometimes in a game like this, you just rule out who ain't going to win, which is the Cardinals. And then you just wonder if the Chiefs are going to cover. So you have 50% of it gone. I'm taking the Chiefs. That is a lot of points, though, but
Yep.
that's tempting to take. But Cardinals have nothing like Terry said. They're terrible.
You never know, though. Earlier in the season, we had a game where we had the Minnesota Vikings, Super Bowl contender last year, playing the Buffalo Bills, which were hapless. They were getting 16.5. Buffalo Bills won that game outright, if you remember. So in the NFL, anything can happen.
Well, so far I've
who
taken
knows?
all three big dogs: 9.5, 10.5, 17.5.
So-
I've taken
There's
the
a lot
dogs.
of dogs in the NFL this year. Buffalo's a dog. Cardinals are dogs. Raiders are dogs. Where's the parity?
San Francisco.
Right.
Eagles are a
dog.
dog.
Yeah, they're dogging right the first place.
Okay, we got
Good
one more
result.
game here. So the last game is kind of a boring game. We got the Jaguars 3-5 going to the Colts 3-5. Colts are a 3.5-point favorite. Pretty much just getting the home field nod there.
Yep.
Um,
Tell you what, I think Andrew Luck is really starting to hit his stride. The defense is still struggling a little bit, but I think the offense is coming around. I like the Colts in this one. Bortles better get his act together. I think he's on a short leash.
okay.
There is no leash. There's no one else to replace him. His leash is as short as it can get, but there's no one to put in. I'm taking the Jaguars here.
All right.
Okay, and I guess I got to make a pick here. This is one
This
of those
is the
coin
best
tosses
bets
here.
of the week.
Well, I haven't picked this game yet.
Oh, you haven't picked the game,
I'm going
that's
to take
right.
the Colts as well. So the Colts, only because Andrew Luck is playing better and T.Y. Hilton played his first full game last week, I expect them to get better on the offensive
Okay.
side. Okay, so best bets. I'll jump right out. I'm keep doing the same thing, taking my own team here. I'm taking the Cougars to come back and cover. They were 8-1 straight up. They were 8-0 going in last week against the spread. Now they're 8-1 against the spread, 8-1 straight up. They're going to win this one. They're going to cover the 5.5.
Well, let me tell you something, Dave. If Terry can go and be a homer,
You can-
by God, I can be a homer. I'm taking the Buckeyes as my best bet of the week. Almost nobody at this table is shocked.
How can I buck success? I got to go Saints over Bengals here.
Ooh, ouch, that hurts. Did you take the Saints in the thing
He
too?
did, oh yeah. He would make that his best bet if he didn't take him. I
You
like
never
that
know
one.
about Dave.
I'll tell you, what about Dave? Dave's 8-2 in his best bets.
Oh, yeah, he's a lot better than me, that's for
I
sure.
think
I'm
he could
taking the
do
Saints.
fairly
That's
well
an
with some of
easy
these
one.
big underdogs too. I think I really think the Chargers will beat the Raiders, and I think the Chiefs will beat the Cardinals by these big numbers.
Yeah,
those
well,
teams are
we're
that
going to find
bad.
out. Hey, folks, that's going to do it for week number 10 show. Want to remind everybody, every Monday night, thanks for coming down. We're having great crowds. We're having great fun. Come on down and visit us. Hey, want to remind, I know it's right around the corner, but we have a Thanksgiving feast. I've got signs and posted, so come down. Make sure you let us know in advance, right? We'd like to know if we have big parties or no.
No, not really. We
No?
don't do reservations.
Just come
it's
down
First come,
then.
first serve.
Yeah.
It's kind of a busy day, so it's too
a
hard
nice
to
thought,
do that.
Gary.
Yeah.
It's going to be 11 to 9. We're going to serve the Thanksgiving dinner, folks. So for Dave, Terry, myself, I'm Gary. Goodbye, everybody.